No worries, King. IGTU. Here is to 4.4 feedback. Note disclaimer.
In this lesson, we're going to be talking about feedback. And before we talk about feedback, we're going to talk about this term homeostasis. We want our body, let's pretend this is ourselves, to maintain an everlasting sense of happiness. And to do this, we have to make sure that our external environment does not bother us, and our internal environment maintains the sense of balance. For example, say you're walking around, maybe you could have outside temperature that's so hot. Well, our body has to say that temperature is so hot, and so we begin to sweat. Or, for example, if you think about if you're in the snow, you shiver. And you shiver because your body is trying to increase its body temperature to combat that outside weather issue. The same thing happens with homeostasis, where you have internal conditions that are also met with stability. For example, us as human beings have a body temperature or body pH, water levels, or sugar concentration that's constantly in a rate of homeostasis. Organisms use a feedback loop or feedback mechanism, which we're going to get into more details about. And these can be either positive or negative. And this is a way for our body, which you want to think of as a system, changes its way of being a stable set point and responds to the external environment or internal environment until it maintains a sense of normalcy. So the point is to have a control system, and if your body detects some sort of change, they trigger some sort of response to counteract that change. And we're going to focus on two different types of feedbacks, which include positive feedback and negative feedback.
Negative feedback.
This picture here, in just a second, we're going to explain how it demonstrates negative feedback loops, which is all about maintaining this sense of equilibrium. Basically, an internal system that can counteract any sort of fluctuation. And the goal is to decrease the reaction that is there in creating at the same time an optimal internal environment and exclude anything that might be targeting the system, i.e., ourselves, to maintain a sense of homeostasis. In other words, we're trying to be internally happy. The way that we do this is say we have this person here and we have an increase in body temperature. If we do, we start sweating. And when we sweat, we perspirate a sense of water that releases outside our body. When that happens, the goal is then to lower our temperature, and by doing this, we maintain our sense of homeostasis. We are now happy. We're not too hot. Now, imagine if the opposite happens and the weather outside is extremely cold and we start shivering. So, this person here is shivering and the teeth are grinding. And that is a reaction that is conducted because the outside environment is too cold. And the reason why we are shivering is if you think about it, if you work out or you're running, you start sweating, and that's because your body is trying to maintain a sense of homeostasis by remembering to perspirate. The same is happening when we start shivering, our body starts to increase in temperature and thus maintains a sense of homeostasis. So the body initiates these mechanisms either by shivering or sweating. And both of these are meant to achieve a sense of equilibrium. And then once the equilibrium is activated and homeostasis is where it needs to be, we stop sweating or stop shivering. So that's an example of a negative feedback loop.
Give me the positive feedback. That's more like it. More like it.
Here is your beautiful baby. Oh, look at you, my darling.
Let's talk about positive feedback loops, which are all about creating a snowball effect. And the goal is to amplify or speed up a process, and it's used to create these really strong reactions. An example of this is when a mother is set for delivery. What ends up happening is the baby develops inside the uterus, and stretch receptors end up activating the uterus. The brain then releases a signal, and this signal causes for what's called oxytocin. And oxytocin is utilized when a mother gives birth. It's released, it's positively released, and causes a positive reaction, which is muscle contractions. The muscle contractions then increase the probability of the baby being delivered from the mother. So the point is that we have a change such as pregnancy, which initiates a reaction, which includes the stretch response, and then this perpetuates the same change of the brain response and the continuation until we have delivery that is basically taking the brain signal and saying, okay, we need to now release oxytocin, which allows for the baby to be released from that mother. The following is a table to say how we can maintain homeostasis and the way that we can maintain this between the differences between negative and positive feedback. Negative feedback is to restore a sense of balance, while positive feedback is to intensify something, to basically amplify or increase some sort of change. Whereas with negative feedback, we're reversing the change. We're going back to the very beginning state. So I want you to keep that in mind as we complete the following question. Take a moment and pause this video and unpause once completed. So they're asking for a sample of a positive feedback. In this situation, we're having one instance going to amplify another instance, and that's positive feedback. So for answer choice A, it says blood clot formation after a cut in the skin. So we have a cut in the skin. We need to close up that skin, so we have to increase the blood clot. So that's a positive so far, but let's make sure that we check all the other answers. When we're talking about B, maintenance of blood pH, the issue is that the stabling is homeostasis, and the homeostasis maintenance, so making sure we remain at blood pH, is an example of a negative feedback. It's a hallmark of that. So I don't really like B so far. Now, if we're increasing breathing rate during physical activity to stabilize, you could see the stabilization is a key word, somewhat similar to maintenance. So I'm not really amplifying something. So B and C are both in the same caliber. And then answer choice D talks about the regulation of kidney function through antidiuretic hormone. So antidiuretic hormone adjusts water reabsorption to maintain hydration and blood pressure. This too is an example of negative feedback because we're just maintaining, we're regulating, we're not amplifying. So because of this, B, C, and D are all incorrect, and A is your correct answer. So with this question, you could see we didn't know what an antidiuretic hormone was, but we did know that it's similar to maintenance and increase, which are all types of negative feedback.
Appreciate you riding along for our cosmic journey. If today's mission brought you the knowledge that slaps, make sure to hit that like button to boost that signal. Subscribe if you're locked in for our next watch. And don't miss the link tree. It's got all the goods for AP Bio, PSAT Math, and SAT Math. Before I sign out, make sure you're all in one orbit and diving in. Killing out. Till next time.